I just hit the streaming button.
Alright, awesome.
Let's make sure they can hear you. Bring this over. Yeah, I'm about to say it's pretty impromptu, everybody. But we are live. Oh shit. I got OBS running. There we go. That's a better view. Let's make sure we're good. Alright, so we got some people in the building. Tavon Dixon, what's up, man? Gold Simmons, Julian Alvarez, Ryan Lemon. What's going on, Tavon? What's up, D2? Alright, what's up, everybody? I know this is kind of a impromptu live stream right here, and it's as impromptu as you guys think. Just in the last hour, I said, let's do a live stream. So I got Jason over here with me. What's going on, brother?
Not much, man. I was pumped when you texted me, man. I was like, let's do it. Let's talk Jags.
Yeah, dude.
It's been doing it all week. I love it.
It's never a bad time to talk Jags, man, especially now. We are at training camp pretty much, and it's kind of snuck up on us, kind of. I don't know. It's obviously been the weirdest football year, sports year of my life, just with things getting canceled and just all the uncertainty. We're sitting here, are we going to have an NFL season? And then now training camp starting, and then we don't know how many people are going to be allowed into the games. They're saying 25%. But, I mean, I was watching the In the Hunt video when they're taking temperature checks of everybody coming into the facility and making them hand sanitize their hands. So, I don't know about you, but I just don't see a way they actually let fans into, Everbank this year, TIAA Bank. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea in principle to space everyone out, but, gosh, it'd be weird if there weren't fans. I mean, it doesn't seem that hard, does it, to just keep people spaced out for a little bit? I guess coming in the gate, I mean, we have a pretty bad gate situation here in Jacksonville. If anyone's ever gone to a home game here, there's only 4 gates you can enter in, and they're usually pretty backed up. So even at the 25% capacity, I think that's going to be your issue, is 30 minutes before game time, it's probably going to be backed up at the gate still. So it's going to be hard to distance people there, but I'm going to be trying to go for sure.
I mean, you still have your season tickets?
Yeah, so basically they offered you, if you're a season ticket holder, they offered you a package to where you could stay in the 25%, and but then on the thing, it was you're still subject to changes, so you still don't know what's gonna happen. So we'll see. I mean, hopefully we can get into the games. Even with season tickets, I can usually last couple years I won't be able to make 3 to 4 games a year because of work, but man. I used to be at every single game, man. I miss those days.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys, I don't have season tickets, but I'm always pretty much going to the games. I usually buy single game tickets, and I always find a way, to kind of go to these games. So that's usually my situation every year. But I mean, now it's only going to be open to, I guess, season ticket holders. So I guess I'm going to be a little bit out of luck if that's true. But honestly, all I care about, I just want an NFL season. I don't care if I don't go to any of these games. I don't, I just want to be able to watch football. That's all I really want. One interesting thing that's coming out now is that there's a reserve/COVID list going on. So I know a few Jaguar players are on it. There was Devon Hamilton, the 3rd round pick. There was Josiah Scott, who was on it, our rookie cornerback that's looking to play slot, or looking to play the nickel cornerback spot. So a few players are on here. Now, all it means is that they have basically tested positive for coronavirus, or that they've been, have close contact that somebody was had it. But I don't know if it's too much to be alarmed about, because I know, Josiah Scott basically tweeted out, he's like, hey, I tested positive for COVID on one of my tests, but then since then I've had 3 negative tests. So it's all super preventative. As we all know, it's gonna be they're just trying to play it as safe as they can, which I can understand, and just trying to protect their assets. And these players are really, really big assets on their books. So So do you think, we've already seen some players that have been actually opting out. So now it's more of like the opt out section. I mean, I think last week the first player, the right guard for the Chiefs, opted out. He's like
Yeah,
the MD.
yeah,
He opted out. And then since then, I mean, Damian Williams, running back for Kansas City, has opted out. Nate Solder has opted out. So that's one thing to monitor, man. Like, do you think anybody on the Jaguars, are there any players that you could see maybe opting out?
the only people that have the luxury of opting out are players that have been in the league for a number of years, have built up a nice bank account, and can take a season off without having to worry about like ruining their future. If you think about it, I mean, if you're one of these young guys that's been in the league for under 5 years, you probably haven't made enough money to be financially stable enough to be like, I'm taking this year off, right? So I mean, I'm thinking about the Jags. I mean, who are guys that are financially stable and don't need to play? You look at guys like maybe Brandon Linder, Andrew Norwell. Outside of that, we got a pretty young team. I don't see Joe Schobert doing it. You know, besides that, I mean, we got a pretty young team, and these guys are hungry for money, and they're not going to sit out. You know, and I know there's like a clause where they can get what was it like 350,000 or something like that if they opt out.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's not going to be enough for some of these guys who are like trying to make their name in the league or trying to make money for their family. There's a very small percentage of NFL players that have the luxury of being able to just sit out a season. So I don't think you'll see any Jags do it unless Linder or Norwell does it. Maybe Tyler Eifert. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the exact same way because you look at the Jaguars and, I mean, a lot of times, like, you're looking at this year and you're trying to see what teams are good, what teams are bad. This year, there's a real uncertainty at that. And, I really think that where the Jaguars are, like, we're an extremely young team. Like, I don't think players on their rookie deals are going to be opting out, and that's pretty much most of our team.
Right.
I think the players that are going to opt out are players that still have like that are on their second or third contract that still have some years left like in the league. Like I think you look at it and Calais Campbell, I think he's right now too old to be a guy to opt out, and he's on a team that he could potentially win a Super Bowl. So I don't think that's that old, but maybe somebody in like the 30-31 range, like somebody like that would be more willing to sit out. And like you said, like you look at maybe guys like Tyler Eifert or Joe Schobert or maybe even like Miles Jack. I guess you kind of have to see the family situation because I think a lot of guys that sit out, they're probably not sitting out because they're worried about getting it, but maybe they just had a newborn baby or something,
Right.
or maybe live with some older people and say it's not really kind of worth this to me. But I mean you're leaving a lot of money sitting out there, and I just I know for me, like I mean, I still go out and I wear my mask to places, and I sanitize my hands and stuff, but I'm not sitting there like super freaked out to get it because I'm not gonna kind of live in a shell and be worried about that. But we're seeing some players do that. So and like I was saying, man, like it could be a year where like just complete randomness really happens with the NFL when it comes to who's good and who's bad. Like, you might get some teams like, like I was just talking about the Ravens. Like the Ravens have a bunch of veterans on their team. Like you might start seeing some guys, jumping off of, opting out of their team, and all of a sudden, they lose 3 or 4 veterans, and all of a sudden, like they may not be as good this year. So, I mean, it's something you definitely like have to start monitoring.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. I mean, it's going to be a very interesting season, regardless. I mean, we saw what happened in baseball. The Marlins, the entire team got it. So now the MLB is having to restructure that entire schedule. You had teams that were supposed to play them vote not to play them. I mean, if that plays out in the NFL, I mean, missing a couple games in a 60-game season is not a big deal, but missing a couple games in a 16-game season is a big deal. So there could be some strange things unfolding this year if, say, the Dolphins come down with 15 people with it and the Patriots vote not to play them. What happens in the standings? It potentially could be crazy, but it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, that's a tricky thing because like if you have to all of a sudden, like if a bunch, like you said, like if the Dolphins, a bunch of players on their team get the virus, and all of a sudden like they don't play an NFL game, like what happens then? You know what I mean? Like it's like you said, it's easier in MLB, or you can make up games, but you can't make up games in the NFL. You can't just shove 2 games into one day, and then it's tricky. But at the end of the day, man, like the NFL is going forward this, man. It's looking like we're gonna have a season, and I'm excited about it. I don't know, now college football is taking a bunch of preventative things toward it. So I mean, we'll just have to monitor it. But I guess going into training camp, man, like I think the first thing I really want to see is like it's really time for Yannick to show it. Like, I mean, at this point, he's not going to be traded. Like, the only time he's going to get traded this year is maybe at the trade deadline. But even then, it's hard to see. So, I mean, I wonder, do you think Yannick will actually report?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I could see him not doing it because he's a pretty like guy that like stands on his morals. However, I can't get past the point that he's made under $5 million in his career as an NFL player. He has the ability to make $1 million a game next season. So for someone to pass up $1 million a game would be tough. I think what would work out best for everybody is if, like you said, he played really well the first couple weeks of the season. We trade him for a first-round pick mid-season. Give us a third first-round pick next year. Now you're looking at being able to address offensive line, wide receiver 2, and potentially quarterback all in next year's draft. Which, I mean, we all want Minshew to do well, but if you're the key word this year for the Jags is protecting their assets, right? You said it earlier. That's what this whole year is about. What happens if Minshew isn't good? All right, well, at least we have a contingency plan of drafting a quarterback next year, whether it's Lawrence or Fields. Fortunately, there's not a lot of teams looking for quarterbacks next season. You got potentially 3 first-round picks if you can get one out of Ngakoue, but maybe you end up getting a 2022 out of Ngakoue. That's still fine, but yeah, I think he does play. I hope he plays well and gets traded.
Like, I got a question for you. One interesting thing, and of course, like the 2 years that the Jaguars have 2 first-round picks, like one of them, it's kind of messed up with the live draft because it's all virtual. Then the next year, like with the possibility of not having a college football season, like maybe the first-round picks next year aren't as valuable. Like if you look at the Seahawks just traded 2 first-round picks over to the Jets for Jamal Adams. Would you? Like, if the Jets were wanting to trade us Yannick Ngakoue and they were going to give us one of the Jets' one of the first-round picks they received from the Seahawks, would you rather their 2021 first-round pick or 2022 first-round pick?
I mean, honestly, I don't think it matters. It would be too hard to tell at this point. Projecting into next year's draft, there's some good receivers and there's some good quarterbacks coming out. I'm not too sure about the offensive line class. I think you could probably flip a coin in any given year. I mean, years where we think the offensive line class is going to be a beast, they're horrible. I mean, that year that we drafted Jokel and Eric Fisher went 1. I mean, everyone would have said pre-draft that's the best offensive line class in a while, and they ended up being busts. So it's hard to project that. I wouldn't mind having 3 next year because I think by next year, obviously, we'll know if Minshew's the guy or not. So we could address offense with 3 picks next year because we spent 2 this year on defense. So I think if we go back to offense next year, that would be good. I think this team's window is 2022, 2023. So whatever you got to do to get there, that's what Dave Caldwell's thinking. That's how he's stockpiling assets and draft picks. He drafted young defensive players. I mean, the defense we have are young and athletic. They're not going to be great next year. They're going to learn. They're going to get better. And then in a couple years, they're going to be beasts. And they're going to have guys like Joe Schobert as veterans and Miles Jack as veterans. And, hopefully guys like Trey Herndon or Gerard Wilson are still around. I mean, that's ideally what will happen. But, we've had 1 good year in the last decade. So, there's always to take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, and it's interesting the way that Dave Caldwell drafts. I mean, it always seems like he goes really heavy on one side of the ball. Like he'll either go really defense heavy, really offense heavy. I mean, really, This draft, he didn't really do much to really help out like Gardner Minshew like at all. And when I look at it, like I don't know how much better the Jags will be on offense. I mean, of course, Tyler Eifert's going to be a huge addition. And, we'll kind of see what we have in Laviska Shenault. I know some people in the live chat are kind of talking about Laviska Shenault. Laviska worries me a little bit because I know some people like to look at like offensive players in college and say, "Whoa, this guy took snaps at running back, quarterback, wide receiver. He did all this different stuff." But I would rather find a guy that's really solid at one position because sometimes, like when you get these guys that play all over the field and have really cool, like college highlight tapes, sometimes they don't transition very well into the NFL. I mean, you look on the Jaguars like Denard Robinson or even like Miles Jack, like both those guys are kind of all over the place, and they go to the into the NFL and they can't really solidify themselves at one position. And Ben Barch, he's a small school offensive lineman, so he might like take a year, but yeah, I mean, it's just interesting the way that Dave Caldwell does draft. I mean, I don't really have any complaints about his draft this year. I mean, I was even a person that said like I was sitting there, I was like, Derrick Brown's my guy, but I knew in the back of my head, I was like, the Carolina Panthers were going to screw us. I'm like, they are going to take whatever guy that like I am going to want, because they were pretty much like the Jaguars are kind of building from the ground up, and they have pretty much all the same weaknesses as the Jaguars. And I'm like, they're going to get Derrick Brown, and then we're going to get stuck into CJ Henderson, and then I bet we're probably going to get Chase on. And then, I don't have any problem with that, especially Chase on. I've liked Chase on for so long now, so I'm really excited about that. But yeah, I mean, do you see a lot of that this rookie class? Do you think that they're going to make a pretty big impact?
We were talking about it yesterday a little bit. Out of the 12 guys we drafted, we went through all of them, and we wanted to see like how many would potentially be starting by the end of the year. Obviously, you can't like project injuries. You never know what's going to happen with injuries. But CJ Henderson's probably going to start. I don't think Chason ever becomes like he's probably going to play around 500 snaps on pass downs and rushing. I mean, that's not starter numbers. Laviska Shenault is a great player, real aggressive, but no one's questioning his ability to play football. People are questioning his ability to stay healthy. Like, can he stay healthy through an entire season? I mean, that was his issue at Colorado. If he would have stayed healthy, he could have had Heisman numbers. Easily a first-round pick. So, Shenault injury history is going to be his thing. Hamilton, I like Hamilton, but I mean, he's a good run stuffer. He's not going to play on pass downs. NFL's a passing league now. Josiah Scott's a couple years away from taking DJ Hayden's spot in the nickel. No one really is starting. Daniel Thomas, good player. Don't think he starts. So there's maybe one starter this year out of the rookies. If the team, like you were saying, if the team was trying to help Minshew, if the team believed in Minshew, they would have drafted one of those receivers with the first pick. They would have drafted Judy, Ruggs, or Lamb with that first pick if they really believed in Minshew. But instead, they went with the defensive back who is going to be good in 2022. So what does that tell you about how the Jags feel about Minshew and their plans for the future? Because it tells me that they're looking to Joe Burrow next year, which, could be a good strategy, but that's obviously what they're trying to do.
Yeah. And a big shout out to David Bryan for the $10 donation. He asked who's going to be the breakout player for the Jaguars in 2020 on both offense and defense. I guess we'll go back and forth. I'll start with the offensive side of the ball. I'm gonna go with D.D. Westbrook. I got his jersey. I don't think it's in frame. Oh yeah, it is in frame. I got his jersey back here. He had a good, like his first couple years. He kind of tailed off a little bit last year. He's a little bit limited in what he can do, but I mean, one thing that he's not afraid to like really take a hit. I mean, the guy, he can go out there and he's not afraid of anything, and he's a pretty good possession kind of guy. He really has to work on really catching the ball. I mean, he's had a lot of crucial drops kind of throughout his Jaguar career, but we've seen him be able to do stuff really dating back to even like Oklahoma days. So I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I'm gonna say D.D. Westbrook's my offensive breakout guy. How about you?
I'm not a big fan of D.D. Westbrook's. I used to be. I love D.D. Westbrook. I get why people like him. I just don't see him turning it around. His issue with me is not even so much that he drops the ball, because if you get volume, you're gonna have drops. The issue for me is the dude couldn't get open last year. He couldn't separate from coverages. He couldn't open up the field with speed. He couldn't affect the game underneath on drag routes. We had to look to Chris Conley to do that. That's the bigger indictment to me, that he may be on his way out. 27 years old. I know it's not old, but I don't know. For me, the offensive guy for me is going to be Leonard Fournette, and I know he had a good year last year, but you add Chris Thompson, you add another year of Juwan Taylor, Cam Robinson getting healthy. I think Norwell plays better next year. I think Fournette has a huge – because teams are going to be zeroed in on Chark. We saw at the end of the year, Chark started getting double teamed, bracketed, all that stuff. They started worrying about Chark and Minshew, and their goal is to keep Minshew in the pocket and to do a pretty passive pass rush. Leonard Fournette's going to only benefit from that. He was one of our best receivers last year. I feel like with the spotlight not on him, and honestly, the addition of Chris Thompson is going to help him a lot in this offense. Jay Gruden loves using running backs. He loves using multiple tight ends. He loves using short, quick running game, and I think Fournette's the dude that really pops off this year.
Yeah, and I think one honorable mention, I didn't really want to say this guy because I thought it might have been too easy, is like Tyler Eifert, because obviously he had his best kind of years under Jay Gruden, and we didn't have a Tyler Eifert last year. I mean, our red zone production was terrible, and I think that he went to the Jaguars because he saw that, look, I flourished under Jay Gruden's offense, and I'm going to be featured as a receiving tight end, and I'm going to be able to get some looks, and I think that's a guy that Gardner Minshew will be able to gravitate toward. And I know you're kind of touching on Fournette, and I think one thing that one little streak that's not really talked about much with the Jaguars, really with the offense, is that there's players that they'll have a good year, Allen Robinson has a 1,000 yard season, Leonard Fournette has a 1,000 yard season, but we rarely ever see offensive players for the Jaguars have back-to-back good years. I mean, after Allen Robinson got 1,400 receiving yards, next year he kind of dropped off. Even Leonard Fournette, he got 1,000 yards in 2017, tailed off in 2018, came back in 2019, and even DJ Chark, he just had 1,000 yards this year. So we need to start having guys on offense be able to put together consecutive years, so we're not all oh, this guy, remember when he had a good year in 2016? Oh, remember this guy in 2018? We need to get that guy back. There's just way too many examples of that, and that's one thing that we have to break.
Yeah, I mean, the last guy, I'm trying to think back, the last guy who could put together consecutive seasons like that, honestly, Maurice Jones-Drew.
That's what I'm saying. It's been Maurice Jones-Drew.
That's the last guy that you're okay, he's going to be good this year. Fournette is almost there. If he does it again this year, then now he's had 3 out of the last 4 years. He's had pretty good years. So he's almost there. We can count on him, but you're right. I mean, he's got a lot of proving himself to do, I think.
And
what about for defensive player? Who's your breakout defensive player?
Defensive player, let me think. Breakout defensive player. I'm gonna
Breakout's hard because
Yeah, I mean,
10.5 sacks last year. So if he what's breakout to him, because that's a pretty good year. So I mean, I don't know.
I guess the guy that maybe I'm pulling for him the most would probably be Dawon Smoot, because he's gonna have an increased role this year. Obviously, last year I think he had 6.5 sacks after. I mean, his first couple years on the team, we spent a 3rd round pick on him in 2017, but he didn't really show much. And then finally last year he started getting in on more action, and I'm hoping we see some more from him, especially now that Calais Campbell's gone. Yannick Ngakoue. When I'm going to talk about a team, I'm not having Yannick Ngakoue in our plans, because from his mouth he says he's not going to play, so I'm just going to take his word for it. But I'm hoping Dawon Smoot really takes that next step, and I know he's kind of fluctuated his weight. He went from vegan, and then now he's off it. Now he's getting a little bit of weight. So, it's a contract year for him. So what do you think?
I mean, Dawon Smoot had a great year in 2018. He didn't play a bunch of snaps, but he graded out really well on PFF. And I think a lot of people were looking to 2019 to being okay, if he gradually gets better, 2019 is going to be his year to kind of solidify himself as at least a rotational player. But he had the worst year of his career last year. I understand. So did Miles Jack. So did a lot of people. So, I mean, it's hard to pin it just on him, but he did not do anything. I mean, his run defense grade was a 38. I mean, he was 101 out of 102 on PFF against the run for his position. So that's not good. I mean, I know everyone's bad against the run, but Dwan Smoot had an opportunity last year to become a household name in the Jaguars, fan house. And like you and me, we're big Dwan Smoot guys. I mean, he vlogs and does stuff like that. But your average fan doesn't really even know who he is. And he had an opportunity last year to step in with Calais' injuries at the end of the year. He typically has, with Darius being injured, with Ngakoue playing okay, Josh Allen only playing 600 snaps. He had a chance last year, and he really didn't, and he really blew it. So you're telling me now that we bring in Calais Chase on, and you're bringing in these other guys who were rookies last year, have another year under their belt, like Quincy Williams, even guys like Lorente McCray were out playing him. So not a big Dwan Smoot guy, but I'm hoping the best for him. For me, I'm looking at Josh Allen. I mean, he wasn't an NFL top 100 player. So to me, I think he has another 10.5 sacks, kind of makes himself as a Pro Bowler and a guy that everyone respects.
Yeah, I mean, I think Josh Allen, that's too easy, man. I mean, he had 10.5 sacks last year.
I know, and it is easy, but like I said, the dude wasn't even ranked in the NFL top 100.
Yeah, that's a bullshit list anyway.
It is. It's horrible.
Like they need to figure, like, if they're gonna really like put out a list and be like, this is the NFL top 100, they need to find a better way to put these guys up there, because from what I know, like, it's like player voted, and it's done in like November or something. It just, they need to do a combination of a bunch of media guys and then have a certain percentage of players. I don't want fan votes in there, because then you're just gonna flood, your favorite players in there like I would. I mean, if I had votes, I wouldn't be out there being like, I think Stephon Gilmore did good last year. I'm gonna put him. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be like, Josh Allen 1, DJ Chark 2, Gardner Minshew 3. You know what I mean? But so I mean, they gotta find a better way to do it. But yeah, man, thanks David Bryan for the $10 donation. But I want to quickly give some plugs, man. I got Jason's YouTube channel, Jaguars United. I've got it in the description box down below, guys. He's at 935 subscribers, so we got to get him to 1,000 subscribers this stream. I'm sure a lot of you guys are already kind of subscribed to him because I've had him on a few times. But hey, man, let's get into 1,000, and then maybe after this archives a bit, and then after a few days goes by, you can we can get him there. But I think it's pretty good mark to hit, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing live shows recently, and those are my favorite things to do. Like we're doing right here, just a live show with like the people commenting in the comments, getting their point of views. And every time we do a live show, there's always someone in here. It's like, hey, I came over from UCF's channel. You guys are great. And I'm like, appreciate it. But like every single time I get like, some guys like, yeah, I love you and UCF. It's like they kind of the people that are active on Jaguars YouTube are pretty much your guys, and they're which is just a testament. People understand. That's why you got so many subscribers. Is like anyone can make good content, but staying consistent is literally the hardest part of this, and that's why people pop up and then disappear and things like that. So a testament to you, to your people, your subscribers. You guys are great. I mean, I love anytime you text me, I'm jumping on for sure.
I think it's easy for myself to stay consistent, just because like I think podcasts, it's hard because like there's multiple people in it. There's usually 2 or 3 people. Then people have live stuff come up, and then with me, I'm just one person, so I can just pop up and make a video real quick. Or I know myself. I mean, I'm a really busy person. Like usually when I make a video, like I don't wake up in the morning and say, okay, 7 o'clock today I'm gonna make a video. Usually I'm very spontaneous with it. Just like I texted you a couple hours ago because I was supposed to go to the gym, but my gym closed down. So I'm like, all right, I got a couple hours freed up. Let's see if Jason wants to do a quick live stream over here. So, yeah, man, you're like, hell yeah, I'm down.
I'm literally always down, dude. I mean, I can talk Jags. I can talk Jags literally every single night.
Yeah.
Honestly, I could. I love it.
David Bryan in the chat says, if Josh Allen goes for 10 plus sacks again in 2020, I'll donate $50. It's funny, last year, because I usually live stream the games, I'll do like play-by-play and stuff, and every stream he was like, hey, if Josh Allen gets over 10 sacks, I'm donating $50. He kept saying that every stream. I'm like, all right, well, I'm not gonna be like, holding him up to it. But then like one day I was doing a random like stream in like February or March, and all of a sudden, boom, $50 donation. He goes, oh, here's the Josh Allen 10 plus sacks thing. So I thought that was pretty funny.
He played 600 32 snaps last season.
Yeah.
If you think about it, in 2017, Telvin Smith and Miles Jack played every single snap, and they had around 1,050. So Josh Allen potentially could have 400 more snaps next year, and he had 10 and a half last year on 600.
Yeah.
So, something to think about for those guys that are gambling on his stats.
Dude, it's really, I mean, when I sit there, I was thinking on Twitter the other day, I'm like, if Yannick does play in 2020, dude, can you imagine, like, you have Yannick Ngakoue, Josh Allen, and, look, you know, when you have Clavon Chase on, that is a, like, you know, top 5, top 10 unit, you know what I mean? I mean, that's a pretty deadly rotation.
But think about being Ngakoue for a second, okay? You're Ngakoue, you're like, they drafted Fowler, and then they drafted you. You outplayed Fowler, and the fans loved you. And then the franchise goes, okay, we're going to take Josh Allen. Then the next year, we're going to take Clavon Chase on. Like, you're like, what more do I have to do to get some love from the Jaguars front office?
Dude, not only the Jaguars front office, but literally for Pro Bowl, Josh Allen went to the Pro Bowl and Yannick didn't.
Well, last year I can understand that because Yannick became a liability at some points.
Yeah.
I was going through his film this year, and I was very disappointed in the amount of snaps I felt like he took off. I'm never going to tell an NFL player they took a snap off because who am I to say that? But when I'm watching on film and I see the guy like just stand up and get blocked, and him and the tackle have a mutual understanding that since the ball's going the other direction, we're both just not going to do anything. When I see that on film, I go, that's not a guy that deserves $22 million a year. Are you kidding me? When Josh Allen's chasing everything down from the backside and trying to make tackles in the backfield, yeah, I'd rather have that guy. I'd rather have 44 than 91 any day of the week.
Yeah. Matt Janiga says, if we make the playoffs, I'll buy everyone a beer. All right, that's an expensive tab.
Hey, I'm here for that, man.
Yeah, but yeah, people are. Let's see. I saw one comment I was about to shout out. I kind of lost it, but yeah, like, so what are your? Oh look, it's Reese. You're here. We got one. It's Reese. He's a member of the channel, and like these live streams always go up on a channel, and the next thing you know, he's like, damn it, I missed it. But he's in here for this one. But yeah, it's Reese. You gotta subscribe to Jason over here because you know he does a lot of live streams too. So that'll be good. But so what? Now that training camp is here, what do you think? You know, what are some things you're kind of looking forward to now that you know all of a sudden football is here? Is there anything you're kind of keeping your eye on?
Yeah, I mean, this year for me is all about Minshew, and like I'm not gonna sit here and say he's gonna be the next Joe Montana, you know, but the Jags have definitely made it clear that this is his year to prove if he has value. So that's awesome. I mean, a guy like Minshew is gonna step up to that challenge. He's gonna elevate the play of the team around him. I love Minshew. I would go to battle with that guy, and I'm excited about his opportunity to kind of be like the underdog and to prove to the NFL that he belongs. I just saw one of the Pro Football Talk guys, I can't remember who it was, put out like a tiered list of quarterbacks, like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and he had Minshew in the last tier. And he did say like still has stuff to prove, and I get that, but man, a guy like Minshew sees like that. I mean, he has the ability to elevate the play around him, and that's special. So unfortunately, I've stood by this for a while. Minshew is not Trevor Lawrence, but he's also not 2019 Andy Dalton. So he's not going to get you the first pick in the draft. He's good enough to win you 5 or 6 games, and that's going to keep you in that mediocrity spot where you have to trade up for a quarterback. So Minshew's my answer. I'm excited about Minshew. I believe that he can do it.
Yeah, like with me with Minshew, I'm always just like, you know, like there's some people that really just, I mean, they're either over the moon about Minshew or they're talking about how like he's not deserving of this, he didn't do anything. Like I'm like right in the middle. Like I'm sitting here saying like I'm not gonna anoint him like this great Pro Bowl Hall of Fame franchise quarterback. But I also think that he did enough last year to say, hey, you know, let's give him another year, let's see what he's got. Because man, like I mean, you look around at these teams that have been going to the Super Bowl. I mean, these teams have had like, you know, quarterbacks on their rookie deals and they've been able to pay, you know, other players around them. And then Minshew, I mean, on that 6th round contract, I mean, you got 3 more years where he's extremely cheap, and that could be extremely valuable, and especially in 2021. I mean, there's a lot of money that we can spend that year. I mean, we're gonna be in I think in the top 5 most cap space. So I mean,
yeah, I think we're like third.
yeah, so I mean, we're gonna be able to really assess how we did in the 2020 NFL draft. See, okay, look, this guy, C.J. Henderson, he's a lockdown corner. We don't have to worry about spinning at that spot. Maybe Josiah Scott, we can now replace DJ Hayden. We can kind of get rid of that cap hit and say, okay, Ben Barch, we don't really know what to expect. He didn't do as well last year, so maybe they want to spend some money on one of the offensive line positions, or they kind of assess where they want to draft. But really, I mean, the Jaguars, they have enough. Not only do they have a lot of cap space, they also have a lot of draft capital. So it's 21. I really think that we're up there with any team when it comes to how far we can go. It's just all about the quarterback position. What do we really have in Gardner Minshew? I mean, I'm gonna be fascinated to see.
Well, what do you think? Because the biggest issue to me is going to be the offensive line this year. So if this season ends and we have to replace left tackle and we have to replace right guard, I mean, you got to at least address tackle in the first round next year. Maybe you go to free agency to get a right guard. Maybe you go to free agency to get a left tackle. I mean, I don't know. But I think those are going to be 2 issues heading into next year's draft. And I would like to have a guy that kind of comes in and can step into that role immediately. Like Cam Robinson, he was a project guy, He got drafted in the 2nd round for a reason. We all had high hopes for him. And it sucks, but he's playing like a 2nd round left tackle. And that's where he was drafted. Not quite 1st round level, but not bad, So what do you do with that? What do you do with Cam Robinson? That's another X factor going into this year, because the biggest unknown to me is still the offensive line, because we have big contracts and aging guys. So we're looking at potentially having to replace 3 linemen next year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm extremely worried about the offensive line. I mean, the only guy I really feel comfortable with, I guess, is probably right tackle Jawan Taylor, because,
He had penalties.
Yeah, he had penalties dating back to Florida. I mean, it was weird. You look at him at Florida, and even this year, I don't know how he didn't get more false starts. It always looks like he jumps right before the whistle blows, where it's too close to calling for a false start, but. I mean, that was an issue dating back then. But with rookies, I almost give them a pass on penalties in a way, just because, he started day 1, he played every game, and I thought, he was solid. I mean, he might have been, the best rookie right tackle out there. So, I want to see where he progresses, and hopefully he can clean up the penalties a little bit now that hopefully the game slows down for him a little bit. But Brandon Linder is getting older. He's always been solid down there. He finally played. I think he played pretty much every game last year, so it's finally kind of turned in a 16-game year. But other than that, I don't think Cam Robinson will get a 2nd contract with the Jaguars. Certainly not I don't think he's going to start for us in 2021. Andrew Norwell, hopefully he gets better. That's another just free agent blunder, and he's gotten worse. He's not trending upward. He's trending downward. And then right guard with the.
At least we were able to restructure him.
Yeah.
At least we were able to save a little bit of that cap money, because even he was like, okay, I'm definitely not worth this. Let's stretch this out a couple of years.
It's crazy because he signed his deal in 2018. Highest paid guard, and then 2019 free agency goes by, and usually the year after a player signs their deal and they become the highest paid player at the position, the next year, now the new highest paid guy, he stayed the highest paid guard in the NFL over a year after he signed his contract. So it was just, it was ridiculous. So, so we'll see. It's hard, because I would like to say, okay, Cam Robinson's not going to be here next year. Andrew Norwell is going to not be here next year. But then it's what are we going to turn over 60% of the offensive line? That doesn't really happen with healthy teams.
Right, with good teams is what you meant to say. say.
Yeah, I guess good teams. I guess it happens, but with the good teams.
Yeah. I mean, tackle you could plug and play. You could plug and play a free agent. I haven't looked at who's going to be available. You could plug a left tackle in. A guard you might be able to as well. Like you said, the cap room is looking good for 2021. But so is a team like the Colts, man. The Colts are number 1 in cap room, and they already have one of the best offensive lines going into this year. So they're in a much better position than we are. They may need a quarterback in a couple of years, which is a tough place to be. But I don't know. I mean, that's my biggest question mark for this team is the offensive line. Everywhere else, I'm okay with, like, at least we have youth. Whereas, I mean, Barch, what's he going to do? Realistically, I know people like him, but realistically, he's a D2 guy. He was a tight end that converted to tackle. D2 guy. Hasn't even played Division I defensive lineman. What's realistic for that guy? Like, I know we all want him to do well, but realistically, Barch is maybe a guy that, like, I can't see Barch being any better than Tyler Shatley. And Tyler Shatley's, like, serviceable, but he's not, like, great, So I think we have issues with the offensive line, and that stinks because good teams dominate the trenches, and we don't.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the offensive line, like, when the left tackle position, like, I want to draft a guy there. I mean, these, like, good teams don't really just let offensive linemen walk. I mean, you saw, like, the Giants thought they're going to get a really good guy, Nate Solder, then he turned out to be a big bust. I mean, you look around, I mean, not many times. Like, usually if, players go to different teams, it's usually through, like, a trade. You know what I mean? Like, like Laramie Tunsil going to Houston or Dwayne Brown going to Seattle. Like, left tackles, I mean, they're cornerstone, pieces, especially when you have a right-handed quarterback. So, like, I would rather look toward a draft. I don't know anything about the 2021 draft prospects, to be honest with you, but I mean, every year there's tackles that are being drafted, five or six of them usually, just because it's so important. And I mean, I don't mind patching the right guard position, like in the right guard or left guard in free agency, just kind of bring a guy to kind of clog up that spot. But it seems like we got the right tackle down. We'll see. Brandon Linder, hopefully. I mean, he's not super old, but he's definitely getting up there. But draft the left tackle and then figure out what do you want to do at both of the guard spots.
Yeah, I mean, there is a left tackle coming out of Oregon who's supposed to be like the next big thing. He's projected, I think, to go second after Trevor Lawrence.
After the Jags pick Trevor Lawrence.
That's what I'm saying. It's a very Jaguars move to have the second overall pick and then take that tackle. And and so because it's between him and Justin Fields, or I mean, Alabama's got a decent defensive back. Patrick Surtain Jr. is a guy that's coming out that I really like. You got the receiver from Oklahoma. You got some guys coming out that are good, but if you're a Jags team that needs a quarterback or a left tackle, your choices are Trevor Lawrence, but you have to have the first pick for that. Justin Fields, who had great stats last year, but is that going to translate? You have the tackle from Oregon, who I think is going to be a great player. So it's crazy, man. This year is going to this season is a major fork in the road for how the Jaguars franchise will look for the next 5 years.
And it's going to be a weird year with all the with players maybe opting out, and then I mean, I was kind of saying like I was actually on a live stream last Saturday with Jeremy Minshew and John Henderson. I was on another channel. Then they were kind of so they were kind of talking about kind of going around, and John Henderson and Jeremy Minshew actually think the Jaguars going to be good next year, and like they're kind of asking about the effects of COVID. I'm sitting here like I think Jaguars are a team that COVID will hurt, because I think that teams that it benefits more are teams that have a lot of veterans, are teams that have stability at the head coaching jobs and offensive and defensive systems, and players that have the same quarterback. And I look at the Jaguars, we have a lot of youth, and when you're not getting the guys on the field, when they didn't have any offseason activities, that hurts them. You have a new offensive system that Jay Gruden is going to bring in, and then you have a second-year quarterback. But the big wild card in this is like, what if all of a sudden teams out there, J.J. Watt opts out, you have whatever veteran on Titans op, all of a sudden you get more and more of these guys kind of opting out, and all of a sudden Jaguars won't have anybody opt out, and then all of a sudden the injury thing is on our side. We're not getting guys injured, and then. Maybe it's a weird year for the NFL, and also you have an added playoff team now. You're going from six AFC teams in the playoffs to 7. So I mean, it's gonna be a really weird year. I'll say that. Especially even watching the games where you look at the TV, and like some stadiums don't even have any fans in it. So I don't know. I'm just in a situation like every year where I'm just expecting the worst and hoping for the best.
That's true. I mean, I think back to 2015. Some of y'all may not remember 2015-2016 season. Blake Bortles is coming off of his sophomore year. Everyone's expecting him to make the jump. I mean, he threw for 4,000 yards, a lot of garbage time yards. They gave him a little bit of team around him. And they thought that he would be the guy that takes the next step, and then he doesn't. The team's bad. And then he has a great year in 2017, and then they sign him to a contract extension, and then we've had some bad luck the last couple of years. Tom Coughlin coming in, wrecking. I mean, when the NFLPA basically came out and said, don't sign with the Jags, don't sign. Basically, don't sign with the Jags. What he said is don't sign with Tom Coughlin. That's what they said. They said, don't sign with Tom Coughlin. This dude's going to screw you in the offseason. He's going to screw you during your contract. And that killed us. Killed our franchise. I was so surprised that Joe Schobert signed here after that news came out. So I think Dave Caldwell is very respected amongst GM circles. I think that Doug Marrone is very respected amongst other coaches. You got guys like Jay Gruden, Ben McAdoo. You have all the makings to get better next year. I just hope we don't get better and then put a bunch of faith in guys that have maxed out their potential. And that's always a risk you run. So,
and it's
year, though.
and it's interesting because like the Jaguars, they obviously the NFLPA statement came out basically saying like Tom Coughlin, is the reason, don't sign with Tom Coughlin, basically, like you said. Yeah. And then like after that, like Shad Khan decides to fire him, and he goes, "Oh well, we're gonna fire him at the end of the season anyway." It's like, why don't you just fire him before? Like, why do you have to wait for somebody to come out? Like, if you have a cancer in the facilities, in the locker rooms, in the organization, get rid of them. Like Shad Khan. I mean, Shad Khan's great from the business side, and honestly, the reason why he signed Tom Coughlin, or why he signed him, he said, "Look, I can do the business stuff. I suck at the football stuff. So You're now the football owner. You're doing my old job." And then now he has to go out there and like fire the guy that was doing his job. And then now like it's just, I don't hate Shad Khan at all. Like, I mean, he's done a lot of good things for our city, for the stadium, and he's a very good business guy. But man, like he just. When it comes to the football side of things and the sports side of things, he just lacks any real knowledge of it.
He's not Jerry Jones. He's not a guy that's going to get involved, And people shit on Tom Coughlin all the time, but I always say the same thing. Like any of us would have hired Tom Coughlin that offseason. Any of us, like we all heard that Tom Coughlin wanted to come back and get involved, and we were like, perfect. He wants to be an owner, or he wants to be a GM. He doesn't want to coach. That's perfect. Let's bring him back. He's a Jaguar legend. Everybody was on board with it. Everybody wanted Tom Coughlin back. He just was horrible here, and he set our franchise back significantly. I'm probably 3 to 5 years. But yeah, I mean, did Shad Khan identify that too late? Maybe he did. Maybe he should have saw that free agents weren't coming here because of that, and he waited too long. But man, Tom Coughlin wrecked us. He extended Blake Bortles.
Yeah.
You can't let Dave Caldwell off the hook. Dave Caldwell extended Gus Bradley. A lot of people forget that. He extended Gus Bradley for a year and then fired him that same year. So, I mean, it's wasted money on the cap. So, I mean, there's blame to go around everywhere. And kind of makes me think they're going to go. I mean, how do you not just like fire everybody next year? You know, if the team's picking top 5, how do you not fire everybody?
But it's just funny because like Shad Khan, like every year it's like, okay, there's one person to blame, and 2016 it was all Gus Bradley's fault. We're gonna fire Gus Bradley, but we're gonna keep Gus Bradley's defensive coordinator and Todd Wash. We're gonna keep his offensive line coach, make his offensive line coach the head coach. We're gonna make our quarterbacks coach offensive coordinator, and then boom, we're good to go. It's the same exact thing this year, or last year, like Tom Coughlin. It's like, oh, it's all his fault. We're gonna keep the same GM. We're gonna keep the same head coach. And like I was a person that said like, I don't think Doug Marone's all that bad. I'm not super crazy about him. I don't think Dave Caldwell's all that bad. But like with the way the Jaguars were, I was like, why don't we just start fresh? Why don't we just say, okay, let's get a new like GM in here. Let's get a new head coach. Let's just completely. Because Yannick Ngakoue might be staying with us this year if like we kind of turned over the franchise a little bit. I mean, and then I don't know. And then I just said like, okay, so what? Like the Jags are gonna suck this year, so that's gonna give them an alibi to stay longer. Like I've never seen a GM like Dave Caldwell get 2 chances to completely gut the team, then be able to build it back up. And then it's just I don't know. I don't understand.
It's frustrating. It's incredibly frustrating. I mean, it makes no sense of why they would do it. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it doesn't. You've given Dave Caldwell so many chances, and he hits on late round guys, but he misses on early round guys, and the early round guys he drafts don't stay. So how good are they? And it's like, I don't know. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, you could have replaced Doug Marrone with Jay Gruden and let Jay Gruden pick his own defensive coordinator. Hell, Jay Gruden could have called the defense this year, and it'd still probably be just as good as they're going to be this year. I mean, with how young they are and inexperienced, they're probably not going to be very good this year. What does it hurt to make Jay Gruden the head coach and just kind of start fresh? Like, I don't know. It's an interesting strategy from Shad Khan, but he's a billionaire, so maybe he knows something that we don't. Maybe he's playing his cards close to his chest, or maybe he's trying to move the team.
And a lot of people say, oh, who's going to want to coach or GM the Jaguars with all this stuff? I'm like, look, if Tom Coughlin's out of there, I mean, it's a perfect job because the owner is going to meddle with things. You're in Jacksonville, so the GM is going to have complete control. Then the GM is going to be able to hand select their head coach. And then, they're going to be able to see eye to eye on things. And they're going to let them kind of decide who they're going to go out and hire offensive, defensive coordinator. You're in a state that doesn't have income taxes, so that helps out with free agents. I mean, the Jaguars, could have named their GM, could have named their coach pretty much. And, it's not a situation where you're going to have Dan Snyder over you or some guy that's going to kind of meddle around with the football operation. So I don't know, it's annoying, but give a few more plugs, man. Thank you guys all so much for watching, man. We have 58 people here right now. I know it's a random live stream. I did not promote this at all, but Jason said he's down, so I had him on here. And you can find the link to Jason's YouTube channel down in the description. I'll also put in a live chat, so definitely subscribe to his YouTube channel. So what kind of stuff do you have coming up on the channel?
We're doing positional breakdowns right now. Basically, I'm just making these videos that are breaking down each position group. I've only done DBs and linebackers so far, but I'll have those done. You can check out the YouTube channel for that. We do podcasts. We've been doing live shows on YouTube, so we've been recording our podcasts live on YouTube, so you can go on there and watch those. I mean, it's interesting. I had a conversation with a guy yesterday on our podcast, and we just vehemently disagreed on so many things, and we went back and forth. It's great. You gotta go check it out. But that's pretty much it. I mean, we're gonna do live shows a couple times a week, but like I said, love you guys. I love your channel. I mean, stuff happens and you pop out a video like that, and that's hard. It's hard to do, and that's why you got the reputation that you do. So just appreciate you having me on. I'm always down.
Yeah, man, it's fun going on here. So, Jason, he's at 939 subscribers, man. Hopefully this video can get him at 1,000. Maybe he can get some monetization up in here. Maybe YouTube will give him the monthly paycheck that he deserves for his, you know.
Yeah, that'd be something.
But yeah, it's Reese says, I got my Fred Taylor jersey in UCF. Thanks for the video you posted a while back. Yeah, man, I have. Did you get any Mitchell and Ness jerseys by chance?
I looked into them. I didn't buy any. I've been burnt by jerseys the last couple of years. I have a bunch of Jalen Rams jerseys that I have no use for right now.
Well, you're not going to get burned by a Fred Taylor or Maurice Jones-Drew jersey.
That's true. And I probably will. But, I would rather have a Matt Jones jersey,
Yeah, there you go. I actually had that same black Matt Jones jersey. So, I mean, I was right there with you on the Matt Jones hype.
We talk about Matt on our podcast, for the people that listen to our podcast. We talk about Matt Jones probably once every 3 episodes. So it got to the point where we basically were like, if anyone has a Matt Jones jersey and wants to send it to us, we will put it up in the background. Someone did, and so we're gonna keep it there in the middle, at least for the time being, for sure.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, I was in. I grew up a Gator fan, so I went to a lot of Gator games. I remember, Matt Jones playing quarterback for Arkansas, and like he got drafted by the Jaguars, and I was so pumped. I was like, this guy's gonna be able to do it all. But he was a big fan of the booger sugar, which a lot of our.
He's a bad player now. Like even though last year he was in Jacksonville, I remember he was kind of going off. I think he had like 750 yards with the Jags in his last season here. And it wasn't that he just had that many yards, it's that he was clutch. He made catches over people. I remember watching him play against like premier defensive backs. They would throw him jump balls, and there was nothing they could do about it. He would just so much more athletic. He would just honestly, the most athletic wide receiver I've ever seen in person.
I mean, that's the same thing with Justin Blackman. I mean, Justin Blackman.
Yeah, that's true.
I would like to get a backstory on Justin Blackman because one guy that kind of had parallel careers with him at the same time was Gordon. What's his name? The guy on the Browns.
Oh, Josh Gordon.
Yeah, Josh Gordon. I mean, but the thing about Josh Gordon was he stuck in there. He kept kind of getting reinstated, but like Justin Blackman just fell at the face of the earth. And I wish we had, because we learned about Josh Gordon that look, he would drink a shit ton of alcohol before every game. At halftime he would be swigging on whiskey, and he would just be he would be playing drunk, and I'm sure Justin Blackman would probably he was probably pulling handles before games, and I wish we had more backstory on him, because I think it would just be because I'm always into documentaries and different stuff. I think a Justin Blackman story would be freaking fascinating.
It would be amazing. Justin Blackman drunk would have pushed any receiver for being the best receiver on the field, even drunk. That's how talented Justin Blackman was.
Yeah.
I'm so sad we missed out on his career, because the little bit that we saw out of him, he was special. He was a special wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, it was phenomenal. He wasn't even really that physically gifted. I mean, he was 6 feet tall. He was, I think, 190. I don't know his exact weight, but I mean, he looked huge out there, and he just made things look effortless. I mean, he was just, it was just so much fun. But Jaguars have just been, so snake bitten at the wide receiver spot. I mean, we had Keenan McCardell and Jimmy Smith. Those were the two kind of consistent guys that we had. And then obviously since then, I mean, we've had, like David says, the wall of shame, RJ Shower, Justin Blackman, Matt Jones is probably on there, Reggie Williams. I mean, we've had guys that they show potential, but they get caught up in drugs or whatever. And then you also look at you look over there at, with Allen Robinson, we had 1 year of Allen Robinson. Then, of course, the first catch of the Houston game in 2017, the first game, tears his ACL. I mean, who knows what could have been if we actually had Allen Robinson that whole entire year. Maybe that, final ball of the Patriots game goes to Allen Robinson instead of D.D. Westbrook, and maybe Blake Bortles leads it a little bit more, knowing that he's a bigger target. And then, Allen Hurns was, that guy was real big flash in the pan because you see where he's at now. Then hopefully we get DJ Chark that turns into something. Hopefully Laviska Shenault can turn into something. I mean, it's been sad. I'll say that at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain majestic feeling about rooting for a team like the Jags because, like, even in 2017, for example, I felt so happy. I was so proud of the team because I know what we've been through. And when you've been through the lows, it helps you enjoy the highs. So we're here for when the highs come, hopefully soon.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping. That's what we'll end it off of, man. Jason, thanks so much for joining me today. We went for about an hour today. You know, training camp is here, man. And then I don't know how many how many preseason games are there? Are there 2? They made it official that there's 1.
0.
It is 0 now.
Yeah, I don't think they're playing any. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
like literally with news that comes out. I mean, you know, that's what sucks about news right now. It just all seems so uncertain. Like they announced 2 preseason games. Now it's telling everybody, look, I don't think there's going to be any preseason games.
Yeah,
So like,
never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not wasting our time with those games, I guess.
Yeah.
Which I guess is good for the players moving forward. You know, I mean, we'll probably never see 4 preseason games again.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully. I mean, it's funny because like if there's any year that we'd want 4 preseason games, it's this year. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Like, give us something to watch. Like this is the one year we'd want it, but I mean, preseason, it's a horrible product, and especially like. I think it'd be easier for me to watch if I didn't cover the team, but you know, since you cover the team, you have to really read into things, and then you know, you have to kind of give out, you know, how you felt about different things. But I just think like watching football without any game plan, it's just oh my god, without any strategy, it's just mind numbing. Because that's one of my favorite things about football. It's head coach versus head coach. It's like, how is this strategy going to work against that strategy? What do they do during this situation? But over there, it's just like, nah, whatever. We're going to run some plays.
Run our stuff, see what happens.
Yeah. It's just, and especially last year, I mean, they went, you know, oh God, it was just with the way they weren't playing any starters. And I think if there were 4 preseason games this year, I guarantee you that, you know, we'd be getting, you know, starters in 3 games as opposed to just 1 game.
Minshew would be like every snap.
Like, I think Doug Marrone was like, we freaking didn't play Nick Foles at all. And then first quarter he gets hurt. Like, I think that was almost like, you know, the freaking, like the gods trying to tell us, look, don't try to protect your players this much. It's stupid.
Well, he did it both ways. Like in 2018, he played him too hard. They all got injured. 2019, didn't play him at all. They all got injured. So it was like, you know, 50 one way, 50 the other. So
yeah, it's yeah, I mean, I just remember in like 2018, it was like, oh, we pushed these guys really hard last year. We're gonna do the same thing this year. Then, you know, like if we learned anything about Tom Coughlin, it's 2 things. It's one, we should have just had him on a 1-year rental. Just come in here, pay him some consulting fees, get the team in shape, and then, you know, almost like when you're starting a new business, you got to get people in there to get things running, and then they leave.
Yeah.
That's what Tom Coughlin should have been. And another thing is that you should not give him personnel duties because he will get you in cap hell. He does not know what to do, and you know he bit the Jags twice in that category.
Yeah, well, fortunately we can move on from him. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully pretty soon we can you know, we can remember him for the good things. But you know, me, like I was, you know, I'm 26 years old, so I didn't live through the 90s really too much just because like I was too young to understand football. So I never remember Tom Coughlin as a head coach. So all I can really remember him is as this head, you know, personnel, football operations, vice president guy, whatever the hell his title was. But,
yeah, that's true.
But yeah. But all right, man, definitely before you guys leave, definitely drop a like and also subscribe to Jason's YouTube channel, Jags United. And yeah, man, we'll hopefully do this again soon, man. Thanks so much for joining me, Jason.
Yeah, man. Text me anytime. I'm always down.
All right, guys. Peace. Huh.